I can't make it on time. I keep a trying and a trying. I did a lot of stuff this morning. Okay, these fancy neon overlays, isn't that cool? And they're free. This one. Hey, this guy. Holy moly. Macarena has been replaced by a virus. It's not even the same. Wow, I got a new hanger? Look at the graphics. Except it's not loading. Updates are all well and good, guys, but you can't break stuff. I'm not supposed to do that. Hello? Yeah. Discobolus. Yeah, did I say that right? A cooler, more mature look. I don't want to sit here and read all this. Guys, yeah. You're intrusive. Sorry. X Death Demon X. This is the character for in Chinese. It means dead. The dead demon or the death demon. And then Kitty comes on the chat and says, "Hi." So yeah, I got these new layouts. Here's my contribution to distraction this morning. This neon overlay and this one. Yeah. You know, it's like I want it to be as if, you know, this is like the battle console or whatever, where you can see all the fiery cataclysms that are going on around the world while you're fighting the robots. This needs work. Hey, Mike, what's going on, man? I'm just like chilling here. You want to play some Macarena? They put a lot of new artwork out there. That's a sign that, you know, people that don't know what they're doing are in charge. They can just put a new, you know, paint on top of it and say, oh yeah, we made this. They didn't make it. Well, my pilot? Did they change the whole look of my pilot? Wait a minute. I don't know how I feel about this. I like the other design better. $40,000 I need. I don't know. I just wish she was smiling. Check out my nuclear mutants. This is what I've been working on. I'm making a bunch of t-shirts. So what do you think? Would you buy a t-shirt that has this guy? I would. Great conversation piece. I worked on these for hours. I'm trying to get it together, folks. Trying to get back into reading my comic book. Get my balance back. What is this? That was stupid. We got to lose, turkeys. big. Unbelievable. A Pyrrhic victory. What is that, man? How am I supposed to drop? Give me that. Oh man, I hate you. I want that central control point, man. Bro. So I can put my fat ass down there. Fire, open fire. Good job. Number one. Come on, we got to win. Michelle, stupid. Ooh, Lord. What the hell?
certain gaps, both in coal and in cotton goods, and in cattle hides, and 100 more. Or is a national economy supposed always to show some kind of surplus and certain gaps? Aladdin's lamp is flickering insecurely. Clearly the observed facts can only be explained if we assume that there exist more complicated and far-reaching economic connections between Germany and other countries, a ramified and detailed division of labor that allows for certain kinds of the same products to be produced in Germany for other countries, other kinds abroad for Germany, creating a continuous to and fro in which individual countries appear only as organic parts of a greater whole. Besides, anyone must be struck at first glance in the table above by the fact that imports and exports do not appear here as two separate phenomena in Introduction to Political Economy 107. In 1913, Germany imported cotton, raw wheat wool, raw barley, copper or cattle hides, iron or coal, egg skins, for fur, chewing metal, silk, rubber, pine planks, cotton yarn, woolen yarn, hide, raw calf skins, jute, machines of all kinds, lamb, sheep and goat skin, cotton goods, lignite wool, combs, woolen goods. Million marks. 607, 417, 413, 390, 335, 322, 227, 204, 194, 188, 172, 158, 147, 135, 116, 108, 97, 95, 94, 80, 73, 72, 69, 61, 43. Germany exported machines of all kinds, iron products, coal, cotton goods, woolen goods, paper and paper products, skins for fur, iron, ingot, silk goods, coke, aniline and other dye stuffs, clothing, copper goods, leather rubbers, leather goods, toy shoot, iron, woolen yarn, iron tooting, cattle skins, iron wire rails, etc. Pig iron, cotton yarn, rubber goods. Million marks. 680, 652, 516, 446, 271, 263, 225, 205, 202, 147, 142, 132, 131, 14, 114, 103, 102, 91, 84, 81, 76, 73, 65, 61, 57. Need of explanation, on the one hand by gaps in a country's own economy, on the other by its surpluses. But that they are instead linked causally together. Germany's tremendous cotton import is quite evidently not the result of its population's own needs, but is rather designed from the start to make possible the great export of cotton goods and clothing from Germany. Likewise, the connection between the import of wool and the export of woolen goods, and between the tremendous import of iron from abroad and the tremendous export of iron goods of every shape and form, and so on. Thus Germany imports in order to be able to export. It does not artificially create certain gaps so as to subsequently transform these gaps into as many surpluses. The German microcosm thus appears from the start, in all its dimensions, as a fragment of a greater whole, as a single workshop in the world. But let us examine this microcosm rather more closely, in its ever more perfect self-satisfaction. Let us imagine that by some kind of social and political 108 Volume I, Economic Writings 1, Catastrophe, the German national economy were actually cut off from the rest of the world and left to its own devices. What picture would this then present? Let us start with the daily bread. German agriculture has twice as high a yield as that of the United States. In terms of quality, it holds first place among the world's agricultural countries, and it is only outdone by the still more intensive cultivation of Belgium, Ireland and the Netherlands. 50 years ago, Germany with an agriculture that was then far more backward was one of the granaries of Europe. It fed other countries with a surplus of its own bread. Today, despite the higher yield, German agriculture is not nearly sufficient to feed its own people and its own cattle, as 6 of the foodstuffs needed have to be obtained from abroad. In other words, if the German national economy were to be cut off from the world, a 6th of the population, someone 1 million Germans, would be deprived of their sustenance. The German people spent 220 million marks each year on coffee, 67 million on cocoa, 8 million on tea, 1 million on rice. They spend at least another 10 million marks on various spices, and 134 million on imported tobacco. All these products, which even the poorest people today cannot dispense with, which are part of everyday habit and subsistence, are not produced in Germany at all, or, as in the case of tobacco, only in small quantities, since the German climate is unsuited to them. If Germany were to be permanently closed off from the world economy, the subsistence of the German people, which corresponds to its present level of civilization, would collapse. Let us turn from food to clothing. Both the underwear and the outer clothing of the broad mass of people are today made entirely from cotton, the underwear of the richer bourgeoisie from linen, and their outer garments from fine wool and silk. Neither cotton nor silk are produced in Germany at all, and no more is the highly important textile jute or the finest wool, Britain having a world monopoly on these. Germany also has a great shortfall in hemp and flax. If Germany were permanently cut off from the world, both raw materials from abroad and outlets for exports would disappear, and all classes of the German people would be deprived of their most essential clothing. The German textile industry, which together with the clothing industry today provides a livelihood for 1,400,000 adult and juvenile workers of 5 sectors, would be ruined. We can go on. The backbone of today's large-scale industry is what is known as heavy industry, that is machine production and metallurgy. And the backbone of these is metal ore. In 1913, Germany consumed some 1.7 million tons of pig iron. Its own production of pig iron also amounts to 1.7 million tons. At first glance, it might look as if the German national economy could cover its own needs in terms of iron. But the production of pig iron requires iron ore, and we find that Germany's own demand for iron ore alone amounts to some 27 million tons, a value of more than 110 million marks, while 12 million tons of higher quality iron ore costing more than 200 million marks, or without which the German Introduction to Political Economy 109, metal industry could not continue, obtained from Sweden, France and Spain. The other metals present more or less the same picture. Against an annual consumption of 220,000 tons of zinc, Germany produces 270,000 tons itself, out of which 100,000 tons is exported, while more than 50,000 tons of metal is obtained from abroad to cover its needs. The zinc ore needed is again only partly attained in Germany, some 500,000 tons to the value of 50 million marks. 300,000 tons of higher quality ores costing 40 million marks have to be imported. With lead, Germany imports 94,000 tons of finished metal and 123,000 tons of ore. And with copper, finally, German production with an annual consumption of 241,000 tons depends on imports from abroad for as much as 206,000 tons. Tin, for its part, is completely obtained from abroad. If Germany were cut off from the world for an extended period, the basis for the existence of German metal production, which employs 662,000 workers, along with the machine industry that provides a living for 1,130,000 workers of both sexes, would disappear consequent on the supply of the most valuable metals, along with the enormous outlet abroad for German iron products and machinery, and a whole series of other branches of production that depend on these raw materials and tools, such as those supplying them with raw and ancillary materials, would collapse along with the metal and machine industries, for example coal mining, as well as those that produce means of subsistence for the immense armies of workers in these branches of industry. We should also mention the chemical industry with its 168,000 workers, which produces for the entire world. Likewise the wood industry, which employs 450,000 workers today, but which would have to close down most of its operations without foreign timber and construction wood. Also the leather industry, which in the absence of foreign hides as well as the large market it has abroad, would make its 117,000 workers redundant. We should mention the precious metals gold and silver, which provide the money material and are accordingly the indispensable foundation of all present-day economic life, but which are scarcely produced at all in Germany. Let us bear all this in mind, and then ask, what is this German national economy? Assuming, in other words, that Germany were to be really and permanently cut off from the rest of the world and had to conduct its economy quite alone, what would become of present-day economic life in the line of Germany's old contemporary civilization? One branch of production after another would collapse, each in turn pulling the other down with it. A tremendous mass of proletarians would find themselves without employment. The whole population would be deprived of the most essential means of subsistence, consumer goods and clothing. Trade would be deprived of its foundation, the precious money metal, and the entire national economy would become a heap of rubble, a shattered wreck. The manuscript wrongly has X words here. 110 Volume I, Economic Writings 1. This is what these certain gaps in German economic life actually amount to, and likewise the ever more perfect microcosm that self-evidently floats in the blue ether of professorial theory. But stop! What about the World War of 1914, the great experimental test of the national economy? Has this not vindicated Butcher and Sombart most convincingly? Has it not shown an envious world how excellently the German microcosm remains capable of existing, healthy and powerful even in dramatic isolation from world trade, thanks to sturdy state organization and the performance of German technology? Hasn't the food supply of the people been entirely met without foreign agriculture, and haven't the wheels of industry kept moving despite foreign export outlet? Let us examine the facts. First of all, this was not remotely met by German agriculture alone. Several million adult men in the army were supplied for almost the whole duration of the war by foreign countries, Belgium, northern France, and parts of Poland and Lithuania. To feed the German people, therefore, the surface of its own national economy was expanded by the whole area of the occupied regions of Belgium and northern France, and in the second year of the war by the western part of Russia, which had to meet a large part of the shortfall in German provisioning out of its own agricultural production. An additional counterpart to this was the lamentable deficit in the nutrition of the domestic population of those foreign territories, which in turn Belgium is an example were supported by charity from the products of American agriculture. A second additional factor was the rise in price of all provisions in Germany by between 100 and 200%, and the terrible malnutrition of the broadest strata of the domestic population. Then there is industrial machinery. How could all this be kept going without the supply of foreign raw materials and other means of production, the tremendous scale of which we already know? How could such a miracle happen? The solution to the riddle is extremely simple and no miracle is involved. German industry could remain active simply and solely because it was indeed continuously supplied with the indispensable raw materials from abroad, which it obtained in three ways. Firstly, from the large stocks that Germany already possessed of cotton, wool, copper, etc., in various forms, and which only needed to be taken out of their hiding places and made available. Secondly, from the stocks that it laid hands on in other countries, Belgium, northern France, parts of Poland and Lithuania, by means of military occupation. And thirdly, by the continuing supply from abroad, which by the intermediary of neutral countries, and Luxembourg, did not stop right through the whole of the war. If we add to this the fact that an indispensable precondition of this entire war economy and its smooth progress was also an enormous reserve of foreign precious metal deposited in German banks, it turns out that the hermetic isolation of German Introduction to Political Economy 111, industry and trade from the rest of the world is just as much a legend as the adequate supply of German population by domestic agriculture, and that the supposed self-sufficiency of the German microcosm during the World War was based on a couple of fairy tales. Finally, we come to the outlet for German industry, which we showed was provided to such a high degree by all other parts of the world. For the duration of war, this was replaced by the state's own military needs. In other words, the most important branches of industry, metallurgy, textiles, leather and chemicals, underwent remodeling and were transformed exclusively into industry supplying the armed forces. Since the costs of the war were borne by German taxpayers, this transformation of industry into war industry meant that the German national economy, instead of sending a large part of its products for exchange abroad, surrendered them to continuing destruction in the war, burdening the future products of the economy for decades to come with the loss arising by way of the public credit system. If we take all this into account, it is clear that the miraculous success of this microcosm during the war represented in every respect an experiment in which the only question was how long it could be extended without the artificial construction collapsing like a house of cards. One further glance at a remarkable phenomenon. If we consider Germany's foreign trade in its total amounts, it is striking that its imports are significantly greater than its exports. The former amounted in 1913 to 600 million marks, the latter to 10,900 million. And this relationship was in no way an exception for the year in question, but can be noted for an extended number of years. The same holds for Great Britain, which in 1913 showed imports to a total of 13,000 million marks and exports to 10,000 million. How is such a phenomenon possible? Perhaps Professor Butcher can explain it for us with his theory of the surplus over countries' own needs and of certain gaps. If the economic relations between the different national economies amount to no more than the fact that, as the professor teaches us, these national economies, just as at the time of Nebuchadnezzar, cast off certain surpluses. That is, if simple commodity exchange is the only bridge over the void dividing one of these microcosms from another, it is clear that a country can import exactly as much in goods from abroad as it exports of its own. But in simple commodity exchange, money is only an intermediary, and the foreign products are paid at the end of the day in one's own commodities. How then can a national economy manage the artifice of permanently importing more from abroad than it exports from its own surplus? Perhaps the professor will jest with us that the solution is the simplest thing in the world. The importing country only needs to settle that. This suggests that Luxembourg did not consider a world economy as any sort of panacea for the problem of capital accumulation. As she notes, the debt incurred through incessant military action can become an important impediment to further economic growth. 112 Volume I, Economic Writings on excess of its imports over its exports in cash. Only. Indeed. The luxury, year in year out, of filling the bottomless pit of its foreign trade with a considerable sum of money that will never be seen again is something that at most a country with rich gold and silver mines of its own could afford, which is not the case with either Germany or France, Belgium or the Netherlands. Besides, there is a further amazing surprise. Not only does Germany steadily import more goods than it imports, it also imports more money. In 1913, German imports of gold and silver came to 441.3 million marks, its exports to 102.8 million, a relationship that has been approximately the same for years. What does Professor Butcher with the surpluses and gaps have to say about this topic? The magic lamp is flickering gloomily. Indeed, we begin to suspect that behind the hustle and jar actor of world trade there must in fact be quite other kinds of economic relations between individual national economies and simple commodity exchange. To regularly obtain from other countries more than everything is evidently only possible for a country that has some kind of economic claim over others that is completely different from exchange between equals. And such claims and relations of dependence between countries exist in fact at every turn, although these professorial theories know nothing of them. One such dependence relationship, in the simplest form, is that between the so-called mother country and its colony. Great Britain draws from its largest colony, India, an annual tribute of more than 100 million marks. And we accordingly see that India's exports of goods are some 200 million marks greater than its imports. This surplus is nothing more than the economic expression of the colonial exploitation of India by British capitalism, whether these goods are directly bound for Great Britain, or whether India has to sell to other states each year goods to a value of 200 million marks specifically for the purpose of paying this tribute to its British exploiters. 11. But there are also other relationships of economic dependence that are not based on political will. Russia annually exports around 1,000 million marks worth more of goods than it imports. Is it the great surplus of agricultural products over the needs of its own national economy that drains this immense flow of goods each year out of the Russian Empire? But the Russian peasant, whose corn is taken out of the country in this way, is well known to suffer from scurvy due to undernourishment, and often has to eat bread mixed with tree bark. The massive export of his grain is a mechanism of a financial and taxation system designed for this service, is a matter of life or death for the Russian state, in order to meet its obligations to foreign creditors. Since its notorious defeat in the Crimean War, and its modernization by the reforms of Alexander II, a major war fought between Britain, France, and the Ottoman Empire from 1853 to 1856 against Russia over control of the Balkans and the Dardanelles, which resulted in Russia's defeat. With its use of such new technologies as the railway and the telegraph, it is widely considered the first truly modern war. This refers primarily to Russian Tsar Alexander II's freeing of the Russian peasants from. Introduction to Political Economy 113. Russian state apparatus has been financed to a high degree by capital borrowed from Western Europe, principally from France. In order to pay interest on the French loans, Russia has to sell each year large quantities of wheat, timber, flax, hemp, cattle and poultry to Britain, Germany and the Netherlands. The immense surplus of Russian exports thus represents the tribute of a debtor to his creditors, a relationship matched on the French side by a large surplus of imports, which represents nothing other than the interest on its loan capital. But in Russia itself, the chain of economic connections run further. The borrowed French capital has served principally in the last few decades for two purposes: railway building with state guarantees, and armaments. To this end, Russia has developed since the 1870s a strong heavy industry under the protection of a system of high customs tariffs. The borrowed capital from the old capitalist country France has fueled a young capitalism in Russia, but this in turn requires for its support and expansion a considerable import of machinery and other means of production from Britain and Germany as the most technologically advanced industrial countries. A tie of economic connections is thus woven between Russia, France, Germany and Britain, in which commodity exchange is only a small part. Yet this does not exhaust the manifold nature of these connections. A country like Turkey or China presents a new puzzle for our professor. It has, contrary to Russia but similarly to Germany or France, a large surplus of imports, amounting in many years to almost double the quantity of exports. How can Turkey or China afford the luxury of such a copious filling of the gaps in their national economies? Given that these economies are not nearly in a position to export corresponding surpluses? Do the Western powers offer the Crescent and the realm of the pigtail each year a present of several 100 million marks, in the form of all kinds of useful goods, out of Christian charity? Every child knows that both Turkey and China are actually up to their necks in the jaws of European usurers, and have to pay the British, German and French banks an enormous tribute in interest. Following the Russian example, both Turkey and China should on the contrary show a surplus of exports of their own agricultural products in order to be able to pay this interest to their West European well-wishers. But in both these two countries the so-called national economy is fundamentally different from the Russian. Certainly, the foreign loans are likewise used principally for railway building, port construction and armaments. But Turkey has virtually no industry of its own, and cannot conjure this out of the ground of its medieval peasant subsistence agriculture with its primitive cultivation and task. The same is true in a slightly different way for China. And so not only the whole of the population need for industrial goods, but also everything necessary for transport, serfdom, with this decree of March 3, 186-1. Other reforms implemented in the early years of his reign included ending corporal punishment in the military, reorganizing the judiciary, and allowing for limited self-government in rural districts and large towns through the Zemstvo system. 114 Volume I, Economic Writings 1, Construction and the Equipment of Army and Navy, has to be imported ready-made.
Why not? You don't know how satisfying it is. When I do well. And I noticed today there was a player 26 million. 26 million. That guy's been around for a long time. I haven't seen that person before, but I guess maybe there was a news that the big update was going to come out. So I was seeing some kind of hardcore people. The guy just came in the match with javelin rack 16 or whatever, and he just sat in the very back with 250,000 hit point brick house with a javelin rack 16 and just slaughtered us. That doesn't really. It's no skin off my nose. Actually, I was trying to keep her account up, and this is kind of at the level of mine. But I started it after hers, and now she can't play her account anymore. She plays on a third account. Hold on a second. Let me go. I'll show you my real daughter's account. This is no longer my real daughter's account. Only I play on it. She comes in on this account and changes the skins and stuff, but she can't fight on this one. So I'm gonna bring it. Let's see. This is my daughter's, the account that she really plays on. She's still a bad user, too. Which means she really wants to win, she doesn't win, she gets really upset. And I'm working on that. I want her to develop. But yeah, this is my daughter's real account now. Let's see. Glad somebody said something. Oh, I don't want to go and look through all this new stuff. And I should probably leave it alone. So she can do all her stuff in here. This is an aside. I don't know what your situation is in India, but in the United States, we've got a lot, and in Russia, whatever, we've got a lot of nuclear waste problems and nuclear accident problems. And so, in the spirit of Mad Magazine, I made a Redbubble account, and I made all these like nuclear mutant monsters, right? So you can buy a T-shirt or something, and it's like got a little backstory of some nuclear mutant from some nuclear accident in the United States. Let's see if I can find it. Oh, I closed it out. Oh, let's see. My system's running slow. Ooh, I can't believe this thing. Why is it doing like this? There we go. How you like that? That's my new art. You can get a bedspread. Look at that. Look at the throw blanket. And each one has a different nuclear a mutant. Phone cases. Look at that. So each nuclear mutant has some backstory about a nuclear accident. Dilbert says a Dias B-47 caught fire on takeoff. 3 crew members successfully ejected. 1 was killed when the aircraft crashed from an altitude of 1,500 feet. 1 nuclear weapon was on board when the aircraft crashed. The resultant detonation of the high explosive made a crater 35 feet in diameter and 6 feet deep. Nuclear materials were recovered near the crash. No known radiological effects found. Like the last sentence is like a joke that I made, you know, because he looks like a radioactive mutant or whatever. But there's so many all over the United States. They've lost. They accidentally dropped nuclear weapons and they accidentally lost them and never recovered them and stuff. And there's all kinds of nuclear submarines that are sunk in the ocean with nuclear weapons on board and just all kind of stuff like that. And so I thought, I could make a store and have all these T-shirts and stuff designed, and each one would have a different story of a nuclear accident in the United States. So these are my mutants. Those are the ones that, that's all right. That's all right. Sure is. Right, it starts from here. Yeah, that's it. So what I need to do is I need to get, store ads with my products. Also, I made some Mech Arena products and stuff that that are up there in the store. I was doing some designs like Mech Arena, like pilots. I like that one. That one, pretty nice. These are all on my store now. These are just Asian and European, Russian. I don't have any Indian pilots yet. I was doing some Indian, Iranian, Persian kind of artwork, but I didn't do any for Mech Arena so far. Let's see. Where is that? Let's. Jeez. Yeah, here we go. These are also some female mech art things that I did. These are the male ones. That one I like. Now, let me see. How many do I have? I guess these guys are predominantly in downloads folder. This is one of my India guys. Let's see, how about this? This is some of my Indian. But I haven't done for Mech Arena. Yeah, I'm actually was an art teacher, digital art teacher for many years. Gave it up, but anyway, I'm not playing my best today. I really I don't know. Maybe I have a cold or something like that. I don't know. I'm in pretty good physical condition, so I don't feel really bad. I just feel really run down, a little bit of a sore throat. So thanks for dropping in. Thanks for tuning in, folks. But I'm gonna sign off for now. See if I can get the feeling better and come back and try to play a little bit better. Till then, it's not gonna be good. Take care.